All right, everyone. Truth Bombs is back with special guest Brittany Hopper out in LA. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining me.
Typically,
So,
I have
Brittany,
some wine, just so you know, but since it's still early on the West Coast, I'll do tea.
and I've got kombucha for now. So, you and I first connected in 2021, shortly after I left Fox. You reached out in support because you were at CBS Los Angeles and you were witnessing similar issues. The news just not keeping it real, deceptive narratives, as well as not having the people's back, right? I mean, take me through what you witnessed.
And I'd like to start just even from the beginning. I've been in the news industry for 18 years, Ivory. And, prior to what we've seen in the last few years, this was my dream job. This was my everything. This was my passion.
Same.
Right. I think, yeah. And I remember when all this was unfolding with you, and I remember just thinking, gosh, what balls this girl has, like, what chutzpah, as my people say. I mean, it was just really, but for me, and we all have a common denominator, I think, in this industry, regardless of where we fall politically. We all have a passion to tell the truth. We all have a passion to be storytellers. We all have a passion to get the information, the most accurate, up-to-date information out to our viewers. But there have been a lot of blurred lines over the last few years. And for me personally, like I mentioned, the news was my everything prior to becoming a mom. But I saw a change in 2020, right before the pandemic, during the BLM riots, protesting. And I was out there front and center, reporting on the insanity that was going on around us. And I was also being told in my ear to basically stop using certain words and start using a certain narrative.
In your ear, meaning you're out in the middle of a protest or a riot and your producer's speaking in your earpiece?
Correct.
Quick shout out to the sponsor of my coverage, Lower Carbs with Ivory. A new study warns that Americans are not getting enough protein in their diets. Age-related muscle loss can slash strength by up to 50%. Other signs of not enough protein include increased body fat, poor energy levels, constant cravings, and more. This is why tens of thousands are turning to low-carb protein shakes. This amazing low-carb is unique, clean, delicious, high-protein solution. Each scoop has 20 filling grams of clean, pasture-raised premium protein per serving, comprising 4 premium time-released proteins to fuel your body and keep you feeling full longer. Plus, each scoop has only 4 net grams of carbs. Accelerate fat loss, reduce unhealthy cravings, help build calorie-burning lean muscle, and more with this quality protein blend. My favorite part is the premium taste. Think of a smooth, cool, creamy shake from an ice cream shop. That is the same experience you'll get with this product. Curb nasty cravings with low carb shakes before their 51% off sale ends by going to lowercarbswithivory.com. Plus, if you order now, you'll receive several free bonuses, including free VIP health coaching and 2 free recipe ebooks. Once again, lowercarbswithivory.com, link down in my description. Mobile users, click that more button. If you're on your phone, you'll see the link. You can get that discount, lowercarbswithivory.com. Definitely high protein diet is what helped me tighten my body up for sure. So give it a try.
Exactly. You know what it's called, an IFB, and every live reporter is out there getting cues in their ear. And, for a great example, one of the areas that I was in was Long Beach, California, which got hit really, really badly with the riots and looting and the protests. And I mean, we're talking the National Guard was out there, the riot SWAT team was out there. Obviously, tons of police. I mean, it looked like I was in a war zone. And on live TV, I said, it looks like we're in a third world country. Oh, that right there, it was the truth. I mean, you looked around, walls and windows are boarded up, graffiti everywhere, fires happening behind me. This wasn't CNN where I'm saying this is a peaceful protest behind me. I called it how it was. I said, this looks like a third world country out here. And I got into a lot of trouble for that.
Really? What did your bosses say?
I mean, I basically was told you can't speak that way. And not only that, but the backlash that I got from people on social media, calling me just this privileged white person. Have you ever even been to a third world country? And yes, obviously I have. That's why I compared it to it. So it's astonishing to me that, we're up against a really big battle here. Mainstream media is very powerful and it touches a lot of people's lives. Depending on how you feel politically, sure, you can turn on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, One News America, or OWN, whatever it is, Newsmax. You can turn these other networks on, but when it comes to local news and mainstream media that hits all of our airwaves, ABC, NBC, Fox, local, and all of those local networks, we are being fed a certain narrative and agenda. And if people don't think that, they are insanely naive. My apologies for saying this, but there's definitely a narrative and agenda out there.
And you're saying you witnessed that as being a part of the gatekeepers at CBS Los Angeles. You're saying your bosses were feeding you this narrative rather than, because you're a reporter, right? I was a reporter. We're supposed to go out and find what's true on the ground, bring it back, and tell the people what we found. But instead, I started in 2020. Suddenly they're feeding me, no, only find out this. They'd literally send me, something that CNN found and say, hey, can you go find this exact same narrative too? So okay, but it's not happening here. I'm not seeing it. Well, try to make it happen.
So Ivory, since I've been in the business for 18 years as a TV journalist, my impression was always to tell both sides of the story, both sides or all sides, and the viewers really make the decision and form their opinions. It's not my job to force an opinion. So however the viewer feels, that's so be it. But our jobs is to provide information. And that information, oftentimes, it includes one side, two sides, three sides, four sides, not just the side that the higher ups want the people to hear. And we saw this primarily during COVID. When it came to interviewing, I had a great example is Joseph Lapido. In the beginning of the pandemic, this man was my next door neighbor. His kids and my kids, they play together. Okay. And this is a Harvard Medical School graduate who was a researcher at UCLA. He was not going with the narrative of the pandemic. In fact, he was finding different things when it came to the vaccine and COVID-19. I had an exclusive interview with this man because he was my next door neighbor. They refused. So they can. So this, Ivory. We're supposed to enterprise our own stories, bring story ideas to the table. Here it is. I have this man with a pedigree of so incredible, and I was getting turned down left and right. No, we can't.
And he's making big national headlines. A very newsworthy guy at the time, and they wanted to shut him out, huh?
Correct.
Wow.
So that is just a perfect example right there but wait, this is just a different side of information. Like, why shouldn't the people hear this man who is beyond credible to say his findings in the medical world and science? So that right there, and that was in the beginning, early stages of COVID. And that to me was when it kind of started to be like, wait a minute, this is weird. This is getting a little strange.
Yeah. So you reached out to me when I was calling out Fox, and I actually put you in touch with Project Veritas at the time because they were looking for more reporters who had also been controlled in regards to getting the truth out. So what happened with Project Veritas?
I mean, at the time we chatted, we talked, but at the time I was still on air. And, I didn't really, as much as I commend what you did, I just wasn't going to go and do that to CBS Los Angeles. And not because I owe them anything. It just, for me, I have a family to protect, and I live in a city where I've already dealt with threats. And so I just wanted to, I wanted to put my family first and foremost, because it does it gets a little crazy. And I know that you've experienced that as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, as far as calling it out live on air,
Right.
bring a lot of attention to you. And I was just a single person, no kids at the time, so I was like, okay, let me just do this. I don't have as much to lose as some other people.
Right. And
But
you have
I
to,
think, didn't you say though that CBS stopped having you go live around that time?
around that time.
Just in
Well,
case
you made such an influence and impact on so many news directors around the country, including the #2 market in Los Angeles, because anyone who I think that they felt may have been on their like red flag, warning, whatever, they stopped allowing me to go live. And again, I would never have done that, but they, based off just protection for me and my family. And this, my daughter goes to a private school. There's a litany of things, of reasons, but I mean, they really, I'm shocked though that more reporters aren't coming out and speaking their truth. But at the same time, our hands are tied. A lot of these folks, they depend on that paycheck, and they depend, especially here in big markets. We are part of a union, and that pays for our health insurance. And so that will all get scrapped. And so a lot of these people on our airwaves, who I know personally, who might think like you and I think, they don't, it's a catch-22. They don't want to lose their jobs. And I don't fault them for that. There's some really talented, hardworking journalists out there who do want to speak the truth, but there's some higher ups that are not going to allow them.
Yeah, not to mention the contracts that you sign. When you first get into news, you're so excited about the job. Oh, let me sign off. And then you realize that you just signed your life away. They completely control you.
Exactly.
And there's big chances of retribution if you tell the truth about anything within the company that is compromised. So
right.
I feel the same, that I'm not gonna, hate the people who are still on the inside.
No.
I just, to the people who are still on the inside of these newsrooms, I just say, I hope that you're shaking it up, giving your boss a run for their money in that you should be confronting your boss about journalism, just journalism. Your boss can't fire you for standing up for journalism, right?
Nothing but love. But at the same time, I remember when we were required to wear masks on camera while out reporting, and I wore an American flag mask, and I got a call from our executive news director telling me you can't wear an American flag mask. And I said,
wait, what?
Yeah. So, what? I mean, we can push the envelope to there is a lot of control.
Wait, so what color mask could you wear then?
We could wear any, but they did not want me wear. Well, her example was, you can't wear the Mexican flag mask. And I said, but we're not in Mexico. We're in America. I'm an American journalist. They felt that it was aligning with President Trump.
The American flag,
correct,
was only aligned with one political candidate.
Apparently so.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag at a Jewish private school, mind you. So right. I don't know. I mean, listen, we know times have changed, but times have changed so much to the point where an American TV journalist, when we're required to wear a mask, can't wear an American flag mask. So there were little things that were being taken away while I was on the news. And ultimately what ended up happening was we were going into our third year of LA Unified School District And mind you, I don't mean this to sound obnoxious, but my child doesn't even go to public school. She goes to a private school. So we're not even part of this LA Unified School District. However, I felt it was my duty to use my platform. And on Twitter, I got into a pretty verbal altercation with the union over them wanting to mask children for the third year in a row. And ultimately, that's what ended up kind of just me breaking ties and just saying, this is just isn't. At that point, though, I was only working like one night a week, Ivory, because it got to the point where I wasn't speaking the truth. I wasn't being authentic to myself anymore. So that's why I got in this business in the first place. Since I was 12 years old, I wanted to be a TV journalist. And I did it. I did it. I met my goals, but at the same time, this just wasn't feeling pure anymore. My daughter's name is True. Like, I mean, we like this. It's just, it was just becoming censorship. It was becoming censored. My scripts that I was writing, when you had to get it approved, words were being changed. The narrative was being changed. And it was so blatantly obvious to me that it was going against my morals and values of who I am as a person.
And then you chose to just leave CBS or Mutual?
So the last year, so after I had my daughter, I went part-time because my priority then, it was clearly evident that I didn't want to be a full-time working mom, and I wanted to be more present. And that was just that was just me. And so I went part-time in the news business is still 3 to 4 days a week. As you know, the hours are insane. We work holidays, we work weekends. So I was still, on the schedule 3-4 days a week and full-time mommy. And so within the last couple of years during the pandemic is when I really took a back seat as I started seeing just some of the things that I was seeing. And then I went down to like 1-2 days a week working there. And then after the argument, at that point, Ivory, my head wasn't in the game anymore. Let's just be real. I mean, the passion kind of left, unfortunately. And, had I been as reliant as I once was with the network, maybe I wouldn't have gotten into this verbal altercation with the LA Unified School District. But I felt I needed to stand up for our children who were still being masked for a third year in a row. So right. I did. We went back and forth, and it was obviously all very public because it was on Twitter. And
I mean, were you allowed to interview parents who had concerns about these masks, or did you just have to keep a pro-mask narrative on TV?
So they did. They interviewed some folks. I will say they did interview some folks who were anti-mask. I don't think that there was ever the real big push of like bringing in a child psychologist and speech therapist and things like that to show scientifically there's absolutely no reason for our children to be masked like this. I also know that the union and the network, the CBS LA, they're in cahoots with one another. And in fact, they were trying to bring me down by saying, well, your guys' political reporter aligns with us. So be careful what you're putting out there right now. Your job's on the line. I said, this is insanity to me. It's not about my job. I work there 1 day a week. This is now about the children, and children should not be masked up anymore. Get over yourselves. You guys are educators. Educate yourself.
Wow. So you had also told me that being pro-Israel was an issue within your newsroom because you're Jewish. So you're naturally pro-Israel if you're Jewish, right? So,
well, unfortunately, there's some Jews who aren't, but I mean,
really,
yeah, well, yeah.
And your bosses did not like you supporting the homeland.
So, apparently I had a couple coworkers. To this day, I have no idea who, but they during the the last major Palestinian and Israeli conflict, I have a lot of family in Israel. I grew up very religious, Orthodox Jewish, in fact. And so Israel is a part of my culture. It's a part of my life. It's a part of my family's life. Even though we are first and foremost proud Americans, we're also going to back our ally, Israel. A lot of good comes from Israel, the only tiniest little country in the Middle East. Medically, technologically, medicine that's Waze, for instance, are Waze. If you use Waze, that was formed in Israel. There's so many things that I can go on about this, but when I started posting pro-Israel posts, it was never anti-Palestine. I would never do that. I don't want to see either side or anyone get killed. But when it was information about how Israel formed and winning the Seventh Day War and all of these things, I put up pro-Israel, Am Chai Israel, meaning Israel forever. And yeah, I got told on by HR. HR called me and said, look, you have to take those pro-Israel posts down. But mind you, we had other journalists that had pro-BLM, pro-Kamala Harris, pro-Biden, pro-George Floyd. So, and pro-trans, pro-LGBTQ. So what would be the difference? Why can't I have pro-Israel if they can keep up all of their pro other things? So that was my point and my argument.
So that's what you asked HR, and what did they say?
They said, oh, well, they'll be talked to as well, and they shouldn't be having those things either. It's listen, I mean, they're going to give you this diplomatic answer of a politician answer of just like
oh, for sure. I know I had the same conversations and not the exact same topic, but I know how this goes with their, oh no, we'll talk to that person. No, you won't. That person is going to be, at my previous station, actually before Fox, it was NBC, and NBC in Minneapolis, the main morning anchor was participating in anti-Trump marches.
Right.
I don't think she ever got talked to.
No, probably not. However, I will say if you participated in a pro-Trump march, you would have been fired. See the difference?
Exactly. And it's that way nationwide,
right,
in all the little newsrooms. And I still wonder why. How is it that every newsroom in America is leftist? Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think I don't know. But see, that's where because I personally know a handful of journalists that are on air in Los Angeles that are not left, not at all. But like I said, they've been doing this for so many years. This is how they put food on their tables, and they need and want this job.
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with you. The majority of the TV journalists nowadays, and I don't know how it was back in the day, they tend to fall very left. And I don't know what the answer, I don't know why. I don't know what the reason is. But we are now seeing journalism become opinionated news versus us being unbiased. I mean, it is so blatantly obvious that so many of these far left TV journalists are just puking their narrative and agenda and their opinion onto people. Think about it. If you're watching your local news for the weather the next day or whatever it is, and you happen to catch, the first 10 minutes of the newscast, and you are being fed a certain information, naturally, it's human nature. I mean, right now I'm getting my master's in clinical psychology. Clearly, you're going to start believing that because that's what you're hearing and seeing. And this is where I think we've gone so wrong in a nation that's supposed to be free press and free speech. We're not allowing to hear the other side or the other point of view. We're not putting both people up. We're just putting one person up. And it's scary. It's legitimately, it's not only wrong, but it's also scary.
Well, I think the fact of what you just mentioned, a morning anchor at my previous station could go out and publicly post on Instagram about how she just did a women's march against Trump.
Yeah.
But if someone did a pro-Trump march, they'd get fired. Well, that's why newsrooms are leftist, because the right-wing people get fired off. But here's the thing. It's not about, the personal views of the news people.
I agree.
Everyone has a personal view. But everyone who gets into news should have the goal of getting the truth to the people about everyone.
Right.
And so, we're not seeing that happen. We're seeing, because newsrooms are full of leftists, they want to naturally promote leftist causes and people.
Correct.
And actually
the other side.
actually not even highlight a lot of the people or causes that might even align with someone on the right wing. Even the American flag now, apparently we can't even show that,
which is so sad, right, Ivory? Because I think that the majority of people that I've met who might be more on the right or in the middle, they respect if you're on the far left, or, I mean, respect is but they at least will, they'll at least like, okay, I'll hear you. And then let me talk. But the problem is that people on the right are getting silenced, and you're getting overcome by this mob of cancel culture. Nope. Out this newsroom. That story is not making airways. We're not interviewing that person. That's not happening. So it's unbelievable.
Right. And in the pandemic, it just got weird because it was about healthcare, which shouldn't be political. It's about medicine, which shouldn't be political. Yet, the news decided to politicize like various prescription drugs. Oh, Trump likes that drug, therefore that's a right-wing drug, therefore we can't talk about that drug. Things like that.
Look at everything that is making headlines right now in our country, and it's being politicized because of the media. The media is the root of like all evil right now. I truly believe that. And this is something that, this is an area where I have studied and I have worked in for almost 2 decades of my life. I've given. So this is, and everything. Look at the train derailment. All of a sudden it's become politicized. Look at everything we're talking about these days that are making headlines. It is so politicized now. I've never seen it so divided.
Wow. Why do you think it's gotten like that,
Well, look, the conspiracy theorist in me can go down a rabbit hole and say that this is their master plan, but I guess to be continued to figure out. But I think that it's our duty in so many ways for those who have a voice to continue to speak up and to not get drowned out and to not be scared. Look, I even said to you, I was scared of the threats. I have a family, and that's unfortunate. I had to go private on my Instagram, even when I did pro-Israel stuff, because people were saying, I'll come and rape you, Palestine forever, and all these things. What is that? Why?
It's so interesting. You talk about the pro versus anti-Israel. I just saw this CBS article today, actually. I'll show you. Jewish community boosts security amid rising anti-Semitism. So now CBS is talking about growing anti-Semitism. When you were with them, you couldn't support Jews or Israel.
Right. Yeah.
And now, so was CBS anti-Semitic back then when they're not allowing you to support?
That's bold to say. That's bold. I would never say that they're anti-Semitic, because there's just never, that. I wouldn't, and in fact, there's a lot of Jewish people who do work for CBS. I just think that I think that, let's be real, the left feel that Israel is, that they're oppressing the Palestinian people. And there's the majority who feel that way. And so I do think that they're going to take this issue and they're going to run with it. So for instance, if I said something like, CBS LA has a political reporter who's gay and wore like a trans mask or something like that, not on air, but like was on Instagram. They didn't mind that. But if I wore something that made it seem where I don't believe children should get mutilated and, you know, whatever, they would, do you see what I'm saying? Like they're cherry picking what they want out there based off what I think the mass and what they want the narrative to be. So I wouldn't go as far and call anyone anti-Semitic and an anti-Semite. I would just say that that's just not the narrative, if that makes sense.
Pro-Israel is not the narrative.
It's not.
You know, interesting.
It's not.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Bella Hadid. Look at like so many of these Dua Lipa, whatever. I mean, like, look at all of these major celebrities who literally have more. Look at Kanye West, who have more followers than the population in Israel, and it's very, you know,
anti-Israel.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And, you know, Kanye being anti-Jew, which his message on that is so mixed. He goes back and forth on it, but
yeah, I don't really understand.
But then he's right wing, so he's brought a lot of the right wing people who used to be pro-Israel against Jews.
Unfortunately, yeah, he's done a huge disservice, and I think it stems from being uneducated. I wish he would just go over to like a rabbi's house and have Shabbat dinner and sit around and just get more educated by the correct people versus whoever is feeding him the nonsense that they're feeding him.
Yeah. What do you wish he knew, since you're Jewish?
I wish he would know the history. He claims to know the history, but the things that he's saying is so hateful and despicable that it's not at all what Jewish people are. I think that, I don't know, the whole Kanye thing. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I watched a long podcast with him on Drink Champs, and he went back and forth about, you know, saying that he hates the Jews and then saying he is a Jew and he loves Jews.
Right.
So
I can't, like, from a clinical perspective, since I'm studying this right now, I can't comment on Kanye because I don't know if he's necessarily in his right mind. Based off the clips that I've seen, it's so back and forth, up and down. And this is a man who I do think is a musical genius, but I think he needs to just stick with music.
Yeah. So you have officially left TV news and you're studying psychology?
I've officially left TV news in September, October. I still do some freelance work here and there. I just shot a 20-series docu-series. It just got picked up, 20-episode docu-series on news. So I'm still shooting and still doing some things on television. But yeah, I'm about to graduate with my master's in clinical psychology and marriage and family therapist. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I combine the two. I don't know. A lot of people are like, we still need your voice in the newsroom. And I believe that. But, as you know, it's just the hours are long and crazy, and I'm a mom first. And so that's kind of, I'm a little stuck in we'll see what doors open after I graduate in June.
Yeah, I don't blame you for kind of just being a mom and then toning down your newsroom life. I actually 100% agree with that, because I've worked in quite a few newsrooms and I look at all the moms there and I'm like, I don't know how they do it. They barely see their kids.
I don't know how they do it. And I just, look, I suffered 3 miscarriages to have my daughter. And it's like, I didn't go through all that some women don't have the choice. And I respect that more than anything. But since right now in my life, I do have the choice, I'm utilizing it to just be able to be at pickup and drop off and, everything in between.
Love that.
We'll see what happens. We'll see. Yeah.
Motherhood first. But yes, journalism is so important.
Mother and family. Yeah, family's number one in our household. So
Love that. Okay, so for the people who are still in newsrooms now, what's your advice to them or to kids who are just getting out of J school, getting into
oh
the
man,
business?
don't do it.
Don't do it. Well, we need people who are in it for the right reasons.
We do, but Ivory, I mean, like, here's the thing. It's like you get paid like crap. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. I mean, you've
In the
got
beginning, but if you stick with it and you're one of the few, you can make a lot of money.
yeah, but listen, even in the top market, I was in the number 2 market. You're not making as a reporter, as a field reporter, you're not making that great of money.
I learned a few years ago because I was eyeing out LA for work and I was working in Houston. I went out there, met with some people, talked to some reporters, found out that LA reporters get paid less than Houston reporters.
Believe
So
it.
I happily went back home to Houston and wrote LA off my list. But apparently that's due to the fact that in Los Angeles, fewer people watch the news, even though it's a bigger city.
I believe it. I don't know what the reason is, and I'll tell you because LA is one of the most expensive cities to live in. So I don't know how some of these folks do it. I really don't. I don't know why they're doing it because they're
Right.
working like slaves and you're not even getting
One girl was she was driving Uber on the side as a Fox reporter.
so sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just
So
telling
my
them don't do
advice,
it.
but listen, yeah, don't do it. I mean, I'm like, when my daughter's looking at the TV and is like, mommy, I want to be on TV. I'm like, no, you're not. You're getting into private equity, damn it. You're going to get into finance. Yeah. But in all seriousness, I mean, look, I think, like I said, we all have a common denominator in us. We like the storytelling aspect. We have a little bit of an adrenaline rush that we're addicted to. Let's be real. We like a little bit of the narcissistic tendencies, and that's okay because we all have that in us, to be on TV and to tell our stories. But so the advice that I would give to future journalists is stay true to who you are. Stay true to who you are and fight the good fight. If you think that there should be a second interview to back up your story and to be in your story and to have that second soundbite to get that other side, have it. There should be no reason why you don't put both sides, even if they're completely opposite sides. They should still you can still write it in. Don't be lazy.
Yeah.
Just
Stand
do
your
it.
ground and those it's little daily fights, I think, for a good journalist who wants to show the full story, not the scripted narrative. I know for
Listen, I just think, Ivory, that the young Republicans nowadays, they're too smart to get into this business. So there's not going to be, we're just not going to see a lot of, young Republican or independent journalists as we go on the years. I mean, I just really don't think they're that stupid.
yeah, well, independent journalism's where it's at now anyway. I like my advice, honestly, like if people are still in newsrooms or they just really want to be in one of those name brand ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, you really want to be in one of those, then be willing to stand your ground. But I tell the rest of people, just do your own thing with social media. You can get paid well doing independent journalism. That's what I'm doing. You place ads on your social media and you do news that way. You make all the ad revenue instead of it getting sent to CBS and CBS throws you some chump change.
You probably have more viewers and people watching you and listening to you than I did working at CBS Los Angeles.
Maybe.
No, I'm serious. The future of news in so many ways, we know this, is going digital and on our phones. People aren't sitting around watching the news anymore. I mean, I think a lot of people have been watching lately in Los Angeles because we've had like Seattle weather and we just paid way too much in taxes to like have this weather. So,
Yeah, weather. Yeah, that's when a lot of people do tune in.
The number one reason why
better
people
ratings.
watch news. Yeah, it's the number one reason. And then after that, it's like maybe sports. I don't know. But it's sure, But look, during the pandemic and especially that first 2 years, there was a lot of uncertainty, and I understand that, including our bosses and us. We didn't really understand what was happening and unfolding. But when after a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, going into 3 years, and we had a lot more knowledge and understanding, why wouldn't we have put in other folks to say the other, side of this? especially the masking of children. Like, don't even get me started on that.
Right. Yeah. So,
Or forcing, mandating.
and so it takes courage for the reporters in the newsroom to say, hey, boss, we really need to show this side. We have a giant swath of our audience who wants to be heard. They want answers on this mass thing that doesn't make sense. We need to show this side, and you've got to duke it out with your boss. But some people are so scared of getting fired if they stand up to their boss. But I started when Fox crossed the line and said, no, we're anti-free speech now. That's when I was like, I got to get out of here. That on top of them making me, saying I'm fired if I tell the truth on treatment, I was like, okay, get me out. At that point, I was like, okay, I have no more fear. I'm going to start challenging them on every biased, unjournalistic thing. And so, for example, because this is my advice if you were still in the newsroom, little things like this. I went and covered I covered a murder. A black man had murdered a black man. A bunch of white officers came to help, which the race was completely irrelevant to me, but it was the best friend of the victim who brought up race. The best friend was also black. And he said, gosh, a black guy just killed my black friend, and I'm black, and a bunch of white officers are helping. BLM needs to look at this and see that in most cases it's like this, that white officers are not bad guys. They're actually picking up the pieces and helping black families who've been killed by black people. I had that soundbite. I didn't tell him to say that. He's the one who brought that up. He interjected race.
But do you think the media is going to show that?
Well, here's what happened, because I am the media interviewing him. So I put that soundbite in my script. Everything has to be pre-screened, every little script.
Right. You know that.
So
right.
I put, here it is. I had to transcribe what he said, show the papers to my boss. Boss says, let's nix that soundbite. We don't need that. I said, why?
Exactly.
It's what he said. It's newsworthy. That's how he feels. This is his best friend who died. You don't want to give a voice to the best friend. And that was me standing my ground. People have to have an ounce of courage and just talk back to your boss and say, tell me journalistically why he shouldn't be heard.
Right.
And guess what? The boss caved and said, okay, fine. But if you run out of time, just get rid of that part.
Right.
So it aired.
The problem is, these newsrooms are so intimidating. And they do this as a tactic on purpose. It's a purposeful tactic to make the employees feel like there's always someone waiting and dying to have your position. And in fact,
true, honestly,
there is. There's really always going to be someone younger, eager, coming in and will work and do that job. And so that's frightening for people, especially if you are a dual parent income, or a single parent or a single person who's living in Los Angeles. And I don't even know how they can afford living here with $100,000 income. I mean, like, that's ridiculous. So they know how to get you. They know how to manipulate, I should say. They know how to manipulate their employers.
Through fear. Yeah.
Yeah, through fear. Exactly. And it's so sad. So yeah, you're not going to see as many people step up to the plate like you did, or like I did when it was toward the end and I just knew, okay, I'm on my way out anyway. And this is just utter insanity, what I'm seeing and hearing.
Right. And for me, it was just like, none of this is why I got into journalism. This isn't
bingo
to get fired for telling the truth.
Bingo.
So I was just, for me, it was just like, you know what I put my heart and soul into this. I literally, the joke was that I was married to my career. I'm out. It's a divorce. And it was a vicious divorce indeed.
Yeah. But who got the upper hand? I mean, who won? You did, because you know what, at the end of the day, to not be living your truth and not be your true authentic self, and to go against every moral and values and everything that you have inside of you. I mean, I wouldn't want to live that way.
Yeah. What a horrible feeling.
Yeah.
What a horrible feeling.
Really.
And I feel like a lot of TV news people are dying inside. They hate their lives.
Oh, I agree. And
But
that's
they worked so
another,
hard. They gave up so much. So they're like, I can't just leave and everyone claps their hands for me because I'm on TV.
and you really do sell, what's that saying? You sell your soul to the devil. I mean, I'm Jewish. We don't believe in the devil, but like, what is that saying? Like you
Yeah,
sell your
basically.
soul. I mean, you do that every contract. And you're right. We're going from market to market to market. We're leaving family, friends. Like, it is such a grueling industry and career, and it's driven by ego in so many ways of like, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it. It's competitive. And it at the
Mhm.
end of the day, when you can't actually tell the stories that you want to tell, you have to tell the stories that your bosses are telling you to tell. Come on, something's messed up about that.
100%. Well, yeah. When you're telling when you just as a reporter, when you go out there and collect, this is what's happening, this is what I collected, and then they completely rewrite it to say, no, you're going to say that this is what happened and you're going to hide that this happened.
Yeah, I mean, during the BLM protest, every time I'd say protest, protest, looting, they would correct me and say, no, it's an uprising.
Yeah, I remember you said that riot was not allowed. You couldn't call it a
Right,
riot.
riot, yeah. So every time I would say BLM riot or riots are happening, no, it's an uprising. This is an uprising.
Wow. Crazy. Yeah. So it's good to be on the outside now. I'm happier on the outside.
Listen, all this rain we've gotten here in Los Angeles, knowing that I'd be out there looking like a wet cat on live TV, reporting in it. Yeah, I'm happy to be in my warm, cozy home, cooking my family dinner with my fireplace on. And, but I do hope that younger journalists continue to speak their truth. Um,
Yeah.
it's, but I do think, Ivory, I think, we've seen ratings decline. We've seen viewership decline at an all-time low. And I think that this is going to be the pattern for our future. I mean, and ultimately that means ad revenue down. So I don't know how it can be sustainable to continue the way they're continuing because they are losing viewership. The trust was gone during the pandemic. It is gone, and for so many people. So that's money. That's dollars.
Right.
That's money, ultimately. And
That's why salaries are going down.
right.
That's why I keep saying it's the era of independent journalism because
I agree.
for many people are more interested in news than ever now because they're realizing, wait, something shady is up and I want to find out the truth. So they're looking for news more than ever, but they're looking for alternative news for
Right.
independent journalists.
Exactly. They're not turning on their local news station anymore. And I don't even think that I don't know the numbers, but I mean, look at even just CNN's numbers are pretty down.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's why they're doing a complete
Who watches CNN?
makeover. Yeah, they're doing a makeover big time, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sad because there are a lot of good, hardworking folks out there in this industry. But I think the ones that are so obsessed with their ideologies getting told and they are just so biased, they're going to have a rude awakening because those could be the ones that are not going to have a job in 10 years from now.
Right. So did you in your newsroom, like before you left, did you call out the bias? Like how were these like morning meetings and stuff?
So I had a pretty heated conversation with our news director. And I did call out the bias. I didn't do it on air and I didn't do it on camera, but I did it over the phone. And I did
Uh-huh.
it through a letter. And but what's going to happen? Nothing did happen. They said, we'll take a look at it. We understand. I'm working through it. They'll just give me a politician answer.
Right. And then take live shots away just in case you call.
Take
it out.
life away, take my days away. You start noticing different, right. You start noticing things starting to happen. Oh, she went from, full-time to part-time. That was on me. I became a mom, but then part-time became 2 days a week, 1 day a week, no more live shots. oh, you know what? This isn't really working for us.
Yeah, they start to make your life miserable and do weird things
It
like
was
that.
absolutely obvious what was happening. And here's the intimidation factor, the fear coming through. But thankfully I was able to give them the big middle finger as well. So
Good. Yeah. Well, I've heard this story from countless journalists in newsrooms across America of these literal low key retaliations that bosses
oh,
do in newsrooms if you stand up to anything.
exactly. And this is the problem. This is the problem. And this is why we're not going to see journalists stand up. So this is
Yeah.
what's sad. And this is why I think it goes back to your point, Ivory, of getting more into the independent journalism versus working for one of these, local news or,
Right. Yeah, I had a coworker that said that he would purposely go sit down with his boss in the news in her office to drop a line about his big support for Biden because he knew it would be brownie points if he said, "Oh, by the way, I really hope Biden wins." Oh,
Yeah.
he's gonna be teacher's pet if he keeps saying that.
Totally. And there's this
Behind the scenes, he wanted Trump to win. But this is what he would say to her.
funny. So he manipulated the whole situation because
Just to, have brownie points in the newsroom.
So I did night side reporting for many, many years, over a decade. So basically I was on the 8, 9, 10, and 11 p.m. newscasts. Okay. So, and everyone knows, I mean, sure, you want that breaking news, you want to be first on the scene, but there's nights where you're like at 10 o'clock, you don't want to do that live hit at 11. You just want to go home, you get off early. And when you're on their shit list, oh, you better believe at 10:30 p.m. they're sending you across town to make it for the end of the show for the 11 to go live, meaning you won't be home until 1 a.m. And these are the things that we have to think about as journalists because we're like, oh my gosh, they're totally doing this out of retaliation. You have to think about those things. And it was not cool.
Right. Totally agree. So it's just, I hope that, viewers can see my experience and say, you can land on your feet and do independent journalism. Or in your case, you're doing fantastic after leaving as well. So it's okay to stand your ground and leave if you want to.
Yeah. And I also hope that viewers and listeners take away that what they're hearing in mainstream media might not be the full truth.
Absolutely. The biggest way they lie is through omission.
Right. Correct. What that mission is, the conspiracy theorist in me can say it, but who knows? I mean, but there's
I'm not saying through omission, like they omit. They just delete a bunch of stuff and
omission.
And
Yeah, I thought you said a
you-
mission. I was like, they're definitely on a mission, though.
They hope that you believe the opposite reality if they delete this whole reality. We'll pretend all this isn't happening, so you think that this is the only way.
Right. Exactly. And we're seeing that more and more. And it's really sad. It's not journalism. And exactly what you said, it's not why we got into this business in the first place.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast and being so transparent. It's good to finally talk to you face to face because we've had conversations behind the scenes. So how can my viewers follow any independent work that you do now?
Well, if they want to follow my personal life of being a mommy right now, they can follow me at Brittany Hopper TV on Instagram. Other than that, or on Twitter, Brittany TV. I'm pretty vocal on Twitter and get into some good little verbal arguments there. But I want to say to you, Ivory, I commend you. My hat off to you. I think that you're leading the way for so many young journalists to speak the truth and to continue on and fight this good fight. So I thank you as a mommy to a daughter who's raising a strong woman, hopefully, God willing. So keep going at it. I really commend you for all that you've done.
Thank you so much for the support. Well, keep in touch. All the best to you. Have fun out there in California.
Yes, next time we're not doing tea. We're actually doing a vodka martini, honey.
Oh, perfect. Maybe we do it in person when I come out to California.
Exactly. You come to LA and we're going out and having a good time.
Sounds good. All right. See you later.
Take care.